If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell icon to get the latest updates.
So today, we are going to learn about how do we create a repository, and once the repository was created, how do we update or how do we do some changes over the local repository, you know, and yeah, these are a few things we will learn today. Okay, so yeah, whenever we are creating some repository, so whenever we install this data services, while installing, it won't require anything. If we have like SAP BODS installer, then directly we can install. It won't require any prerequisite, but there is some system configurations are needed whichever required for this installation. And it's moreover like as a developer you no need to worry about this thing, but if you know, then good to know about these concepts. But it's not mandatory for a developer to know like how do we install a data services, how do we create repository, how do we adding this repository to our CMC. So these all are the concept comes under admin role. So as a developer, you if you know, then that's good. If not, then that's not at all an issue for us. Okay. So now coming to repository creation. So whenever we install our BODS server, so that time what will happen, once we installed our BODS, then there is separate process was there to create our repository. So yesterday I mentioned, right? There are like if any objects that we are going to create inside a repository, it will store in backend database as a metadata. Correct? So in that way, so while creating a repository, we should need some database, and that database should have admin access to us. Then only we can assign the required roles to our local repository. Okay. So before we creating repositories, so the prerequisite was BODS should be installed into any of the Windows system or Linux system, whatever as per the client providing system. So that system we should install the BODS, and at least we have any of the one database server, and in that any of the database should be created. In that particular database, we should have admin access. Why admin access means like we should have some roles to be assigned to the BODS, whatever the user that we have created, right? Whatever the table that we have created, on that table we should grant all the access required for that, like inserting, updating, deleting, truncating. So all these type of access we need to grant to that particular table. So these all are the few requisites, like if we want to create one BODS user inside a database, so we need to give the connect as we need to grant connect access to that BODS user, grant and we need to give create session access to this particular BODS user. It's not only BODS, you can give any name here. Okay, so here BODS server 1 is our server name, and BODS is our user, which are there in database. It's not related to what we call designer or our BODS tool. These BODS is a user and BODS server 1 is a server. So you can have your own naming names in whenever you install your database. So based on that, you need to grant all these type of access to your user. Any doubt till now? So don't worry, if you are not interested as well, just listen all these concepts. It's not at all used for a developer. If developer knows these concepts, then good. If not, then also good. So I was moving little faster to today's session. So yeah, these are a few of the access that can be given to that particular, like grant connect to CMS, like central management server, and DBA access to the CMS, So like we can create any tables, views, we can drop, we can alter, we can insert the data into table, we can update, we can delete. So all these access should be given to that particular CMS server. Like how do we did for the user in the database. So like this. So now database part was completed. Now we have all the admin access, all the access whichever required for creating the repository now. So once the BODS server, BODS data services was installed into our system, then if we go to the like search window or Windows button, then we will find out this option. So this, there will be like these many options are there. These all are called the BODS components, like data services designer is on component, data services local selector is on component, management console. Yesterday we have discussed about this management console. What all are the options? What can we do inside the management console? So these all are the options. And data services repository manager, data services server manager, workbench, and license manager. So these all are the components when we will get when we install our BODS data services. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, our data services has the latest version of 4.2.14. So that is the latest version. And the latest news from data services, there will be one more new version will come, like maybe 2023, mid of 2023 or something. So that will be 4.3. That is the later, that is the next version of BODS. They will do some patching and all. So that is the latest news about the BODS. So now coming back to our topic, if you want to create any of the repository initial after installing the data services, then we can go to this data services repository manager, this thing, and if we click on this, then there will be new window will be open, like this type of window will be open. So here we can choose like actually I told there are three type of repositories we have. One is local, one is central, and another one is profiler repository. If you want to create any type of repository, then we should go to this repository manager only. Like if you want to create local repository, if you want to create central repository, or if you want to create a profiler repository, then you should choose this option. If you click on this, you will get into this window, and then you can choose whatever the repository you want. This was the local repository. If you want to create local repository, and on which database, if you want to configure this local repository, then you can choose that type of database, whether it was SAP HANA or MS SQL Server or Oracle or whatever you want, you can choose that particular database. So in that database, if it is HANA, then it will come like HANA will come in two versions, HANA 1.x or HANA 2.x. For now, if your HANA was there 1.x, then you can choose HANA 1.x. You can give the database server name, like these all are the database details, server name and port number. These all are the details available from the installed database. Their local, like whatever the server name, port number, username, password. So if you give all these details, so once provided all these details, you can directly click on create. Then you will get all these type of messages once we click on create button. So the last message should be the local repository was successfully created. Now you have created local repository for yourself. Now the next process would be to this local repository should be added into our central management console, CMC. So that is the next process. Now what we will do, we need to log in into our central management console. For that, we have this central management console, SAP Business Objects BI Platform Central Management Console. If we click on this, one URL, one UI will be open, and from that UI, you will get this window. Okay, so from this window, you need to choose here data services. You need to choose here data services. Okay, So from these data services, if you go, if you click on that, you will get this window. And then whatever the repository you have created, right, you need to configure that. You need to click on this configure button. Okay, from that configuration button, if you click on that, you need to provide the details of whatever the repository that you have created previously. So once you provided those details, that repository will be visible here. So like, for example, we have created repo BODS, right? In our case, repo BODS, what type of repository it was, version, and what time it has created, whether it was active or deactive, you will get all this type of information in the CMC. Like this. If you click on this button, right, configure, then this window will be open. Then here you've given like local repo, you have created local repo, database type, whatever the information previously you gave, you need to give same information, and you need to click on test connection also you can do, or you can click on save button as well. If you do test connection, it will show like connection to HANA like database successful message, it will display here. Or if you directly click on save button, then it will give, if the connection was failed, then it will give connection to that particular server was failed or something error message you will get. If connection was success, then this window will be closed off. So that is the bonds it was mentioned here. Click on the button test connection. If it is successful, click save. Once you save, it will come under repository tab in CMC. So like this, one more repository will come here. You will get all the repositories what all are associated with your data services. So this is what the process was. So once you done with all this, now repository creation was done. So now you need to go to this page. So you need to give system or host name, username, password, and authentication. So once you provided all these details, if you click on login, then the associated repository will be comes here in the list. So from there, whatever repository you want to log in, you just click on that particular repository. Just click on that particular repository. If you click on OK, then you can directly log in into that particular repository. So as a developer, our actual work will be started from here. So these all information admin should provide you. For example, you are assigned to a project into some, or you are working for some client. Then these configurations will be done by admin team. So admin team will provide like what is the system name, what is the username, password to connect to that particular system, and then once that access was once they have provided the details, so which repository you need to work. So based on that, you need to choose the repository and then click on OK. Like that it would be.
Venkat, can you go one slide back? Not this one. There was a Windows option. We can see repository, data service repository. And yeah, here. Next one.
This one you're saying?
One more step back. Yeah, here. So our repositories, whenever we create a repository, it will be done from data service repository manager, right?
Yes, correct.
And once repository is created, we will be configuring that to management console, right?
Central management console. Yeah.
So, okay. So central management console and data service management console are same?
No, both are different. Central management console is for admin task. Management console is for developer purpose.
Okay. So,
like to monitor the jobs, to scheduling the jobs.
Okay. So now central management console, where is it? Where I can
here
see
you can see, right? In the list also you will get one of like CMC. If you type, once you install these data services, right, if you type CMC, then you will get that one.
Okay, and then next step
would be you will open that CMC. Okay, anyhow you have created one repository like this, right? So this repository should be registered in CMC.
So CMC is a web-based, right? Browser-based.
Yeah,
right?
web-based, bro. Yeah.
Can we show that? Can we show that screen here? Okay.
Like this, it will come. From there, like we should choose only data services.
Okay.
So in that data services panel, if you click there, you will get all the repositories associated with your data services.
Okay. And I see there is a central repository is also available in our designer.
Yeah, central repository also available. Once we created central repositories, right? Even those list also we will get. It's not only for local, it's for all the repositories, whatever associated with our data services, it will comes under here.
Okay. So when I click on data service management, I have a couple of options. So in that I need to navigate to administrator, right? Administrator, and then
Sorry, can you come again?
yeah. In designer, I can see the option data service management console. Okay. So when I click on that, I have a couple of options like administrator, so and so. So administrator, impact and lineage analysis, so and so
Yes.
options are available. So among these, so should I need to navigate to administrator to configure our local repository
No,
to?
administrator only for like that is the administrator where we can see the job information.
Okay, can you go one slide back? Back. Yes, here. So I don't see this screen
No,
in
this
my.
was different. This was central management console. Central
Okay.
management console is different. Management console is different.
Okay.
So you don't compare central management console with our normal management console. Normal management console is only for developer, or if you want to restart any servers, job servers or real-time services from management console, we can do. But
Yes.
coming to admin part, if you want to do adding or configuring repositories, if something we want to do, then from central management console we can do that one.
Yeah, I just did that, but I don't see these options. I mean, the screen which you are showing in this, in this slide.
Okay, this screen won't come.
Okay.
Whenever you log in into designer, right?
Yeah.
From designer, if you want to access this screen won't come. There is some different screen will come in management console. That management console is different, and this central management console is different.
Okay.
Yeah, this is only for admins.
Yeah, that's okay, but I'm just checking whether I can see that option or not. That's it.
No, if you want to have this option, then you can go for like I told you, no, from this list, if you go for your search window, you can get the central see here SAP Business Object BI Platform Central Management Console will be there. While
Okay.
clicking this option, you will get this screen.
Okay.
But from this, you won't get the.
That one is only for admin, right?
Yes, this is only for admin. But normal management console is for developer and admin as well. They can use. The central management
What
console
is
is
the one
different.
for developer?
For developer, management console is important.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you do for the management console for developers?
For developers, he can monitor the job. He can schedule the
Okay.
job. He can like he can have the batch script of the job.
Mhm.
He can start and stop the schedules. He can activate or deactivate the schedules. So these type of stuff we can do from the management console.
So
Any other?
Venkat,
Yeah.
Venkat, so in your slides, so first you created the local repository, then you added that local repository in central, right? The second step you
Yes.
added the.
Central management console. Central repository is different. Central management console is different. Management console is different.
Okay.
Because see, whenever we create this repository, right here, if it is a local repository, we can choose as local this one. If you want to create central, then if in the drop down we can select central as well.
And this repository we will be creating only once, right? For a
Yeah,
user,
only once we
for a
can
developer.
create, but we can create n number of repositories.
One
That's
per
depends.
user.
Okay.
Sorry?
Being a
Yeah, go ahead.
It's one per developer, right? One per user.
Yeah, one for each developer, or one repository can be used by multiple developers as well once you provided the credentials.
Yeah, but best practices, you don't,
Yeah,
if
best
the
practice is one for
repository
one
and use for
developer.
multiple users, because otherwise you lost the maintainability of the programs in the repo.
Yes, correct. Best practices one is for one developer.
Okay, so being a developer now, by default, I got one local repository and would like to create a one more for my some testing purpose or something. So
Mhm.
the other one which I have created for my own, that I have created some workflows and
Hmm.
would like to deploy into our main repository, central repository. Is it
Okay.
possible? Is it
Yeah.
possible?
Yep.
Once I develop everything at the back end, and later on I can assign it to our central via central
Yeah,
manager.
even that can also possible.
Okay. And I can create my local repository.
Yeah, you can create if you know the process like this. You can, if you follow this process, you can create n number of repositories. But if client says okay for you, if they are agree, then you can create. But whatever the repository you create, right, you will get all those list of repositories in this window. Here you will
And
get all the list
and
of repositories.
this will be visible to myself only, not to the team, right?
No, it will be visible to all of the users. If they log in here once, right? So once
Okay.
you provide all these details, if you click on login, then whatever the repositories are there, all the repositories will be listed out here.
Okay. So when we have a system and I try to connect to the designer, and I ran into some error stating that you might corrupt the repository. Let me give you that.
If you are logged in to your current repo and then you try to reopen on another session, that is possible.
Yes, that is possible. There is option called repository, like new repository or something option will be there that can be done. From
I
one
think
repository to another repository, we can move.
I think Seven, we cannot create here because we connected a client in the Citrix machine, right? So you want to create local repository, you need to connect that BODS installed server. Then I think we can create repositories.
Yes.
No. I'm just logging into the data services.
No,
So I see.
in data services, you connected to Citrix, right? You are not in
Okay.
the actual
You
BODS installed machine, right?
Okay.
you need
Maybe
to be on the
maybe
server.
maybe that is my understanding. I don't know, but we
Yeah,
cannot
that's correct only, Sudhakar. Yeah.
basically, Venkat, we are connecting the BODS through Citrix actually. So we are not connecting actual BODS
To
installed
virtual
machine.
machine.
Okay.
We're not
But
Okay.
physically
If it is
connected.
in a virtual machine, if you have all the rights to on that virtual machine, yeah, you can do. But I think they might not provide you all the access into virtual machine.
okay. Yes. Maria, I have a screenshot here. Can I share it over here? It is in
Yeah.
the Citrix. I just captured only the message. Is it fine?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can put it on the message chat.
So this is a message I got while connecting the repository.
Okay.
It's in the chat window.
See, that is, I think, Jonathan ID that is following already logged in, right?
You're
Yeah.
already logged.
Even you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, this type
no,
of message when you get, if somebody already logged into that particular repository,
Mhm.
If you want to log in into the same repository, then you will get this type of message.
So
Okay, so in this scenario, we can click on continue.
Yeah, if you want to log in
Uh,
continuously, then you can click on continue. If you click on reset users, the other user designer will be closed automatically.
whatever,
So
if this is Jonathan, right? So if he's doing something and you log in, it will override whatever he is doing.
he will lose his work.
Yeah, correct. He will lose
Correct.
his work.
So even we get this screen, Shravan. So in the initial screen, we have a
Yeah,
local
if you
repository
get
and
this
one more
type of
main
pop-up, right?
main, right? The main,
Yeah,
if
if
he
you
select the
get this
main,
type
he
of
will get this.
pop-up, right, you can contact that particular person. If his work is done, you can do reset users. Or if still he was working, then you can do continue. If you don't want to log in, you can do click on exit.
So a developer, what are the scenarios like when he can connect to the main repository? Yeah, I mean, he can do his development on his local repository, and do we need to have
Technically,
a
we should not be going in here, right?
No, Shravan, I haven't understood your question.
no, I got it from Maria.
Okay.
Mhm. I mean, in reality, we don't wanna, do this.
Yeah, in reality, we don't want to disturb the other one, and he might lose
Yes,
the work.
yes,
Yep,
correct.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
I got it. Okay, Venkat, that's all.
yeah,
Please, I think we lost your screen sharing.
yeah. Let me share my screen again.
It's a good question.
You can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, so once you created the repository, you will get all the list of repository which was associated with server, this host or whatever it may be. So you will get all the list of repositories. From this list, whichever repository you want, you can click on that repository and you can log in into your designer. That's how it will work. And I told so if you want to update your repository, right? Update means like uh, sometimes whenever you created your repository, so you forgot to give the password or you forgot to give some roles to that particular repository. For example, you have created that repository and admin has provided you only read access for that particular repository. So that time you need to update the repository, right? It should be like read and write access, and it should be secure. It should be password. You can give the password for that repository. So that time you need to update your repository. To update your repository as well, you should go to Data Services Repository Manager only. So there, if you click on that, you can get that one, and you can give the repository type and SAP HANA, all these details. You can click on upgrade. So once this was done, you will get like the local repository is up to date, like this screenshot screen you will get. So this is how you can like create a repository and update a repository. Any questions till now?
So Venkat, in each environment, like so we have one main local repository and one central, right? So for example, in development, we have one main local and one central. So
No, that's not a main local. See, local repository, it was different for different developers. There is no main local repository. There is no sub-local repository.
so for example, we have four developers. Developers have their own local repository. Where we, I mean, integrate these four individual local repository into the the main. Where we integrate that.
See,
So I
as
created
per
one job. Seven created one job. So where we, I mean, import. I mean, or where we can.
yeah, like see, you have created one job. Shravan has created one job. So
Uh,
you can run those jobs individual from your own repositories.
yes, I agree that one. Suppose you want to suppose admin
But
or some
if you
admin
want
want to
to
create the
integrate,
job.
if you want to integrate those 4 jobs, you're gonna import them to your central repo.
Yes,
right?
you can
And
move
then
those to central repo and
no,
you get all the objects from your central repo to your local repo.
correct. You have, in order for you to integrate, multiple jobs from multiple repo, you have to
Okay.
bring them into one central location, which is the
Yes,
central repo.
Okay.
yes.
Okay, for
Or
individual.
else, or else Ravan can provide you the ATL file. You can import that ATL file into your local repository.
What is that? It what file? What call that?
ATL, Maria.
ATL
Oh,
file, dot
okay.
ATL file.
Like our DTSX, here we have
Mm.
ATL files.
Yeah.
So you
Okay,
can
so
import that to your local.
Yes.
what's the best practice doing this? Like
Central only.
central or
Everything.
not? Okay,
Not the ATL or something.
Central.
ATL, it
okay.
was if the user wants like an emergency movement, then you can go for dot ATL.
Yeah, you want it only to central because you could technically corrupt or change any part of the code
Yes, you
if you
can
bring
do
it.
anything, but the original code won't affect. It will be there in the central repository until and unless you again if you move the latest code to central repository. Even that time also you will have the old code and new code in the central
Well,
repository.
the best practice is you want to bring your code, your original code to central repo before, you know, sharing it to anyone. Otherwise, it's going to,
No, like best
you're
practice
taking your
means I
time.
would prefer only central repository. If you keep backup of your ATL file, then that's okay.
Hmm.
Yeah,
But
either
that's,
of the option
how
is
many backups you're going to keep, right?
yeah, that is the problem.
Then, after a while, you will lose track of your
Yeah, we
own
will
work.
get confused like which one was the having which type of code. If it is a central, then one by one, if we do get latest, then if that is not happen, then even the older version also we can do get latest. It won't affect anything in our local repository because all the type of versions are there in central repository.
Correct.
Whatever we want, we can do get latest of those from the central repository.
So Venkat, when we create any, we schedule any job, so we can refer the central repository versions.
Yeah.
Suppose I created one job in my local repository and imported to central. So I want to create and schedule a job on the particular job. So we can, the source for the job is the central repository, right?
No, no, no. Central repository, it's only storing the objects of your jobs. If you want to do the scheduling, you need to do that from your local repository.
Local means that is in my developer machine, we have a local, right? So
Hmm.
suppose,
See, from central repository, you can do scheduling, you can do monitor. From local repository only, you will do.
so here we have four local repository, four developers is there, four local repositories. So suppose you want to create, anyone want to create like their own jobs, you want to use the corresponding the local job, local repository or what?
Yeah. So, see, if that particular developer wants to run one job, either he can run it from his designer or he can go to management console. For example, there are four repositories, repo A, B, C, D was there. Okay. You need to run four different jobs from four different repositories. So in that case, I would prefer to go management console and log in. There, I would open four repositories in four tabs. In that four tabs, whichever jobs that I want to execute, I will execute one by one in the each repository. That's how BODS will work.
Okay, so in management console we see all four
Yes, all
local.
repositories. I told you, like this screen. So this was the designer screen, right? In management console, these type of details only you need to give. Once you give these details, their administrator will comes, right? If you click on administrator, in left side panel, one expand block will be there. In that you will find all the repository associated repositories. From there, whichever the repository, if you want to run the job, that repository you can log in. There you can find the jobs and you can execute your job.
Okay.
Like that it would be. I will show you a management console today.
Okay.
So that you will get some idea about it.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
So Venkat, central repository is to store whatever the work we have done. To be
It's
on a
something
JPO
like a
side, we will
backup
place
type.
it. Okay.
It's something like backup type. From central repository, we can't do anything. We
Okay.
cannot run the job. We cannot schedule the job. It's something like, storing purpose only, backup of our jobs.
Okay. So now I got a requirement. So within data, I created a data source. On top of that, I created a job workflow and then a data flow. So now would like to schedule this on a daily basis.
Hmm.
So I know that this repository my repository have this job to be triggered, and I'm scheduling it. And one fine day I was on a leave, and then this job got failed.
Hmm.
Then how Sudhakar is going to access it and fix it?
From administrator, he can get the status.
So Sudhakar should also have admin roles and access.
No. He should have access, because see, from management console, you can see all the repositories associated with it. So from there, he can go and he can check your job status. If you are on leave, he can check your job status. If it has failed, again, he can re-trigger the job. Even also if it is failed, because in production, we should have only one repository. We should not have different repositories for different developers.
Yeah, that I
So
got.
with production, it won't happen like that. Only in development environment only, if the job was in your personal repository, no one will do any changes in your personal repository until and unless you have given access to them.
Okay.
But while it's come to production, that is not the situation. In production, we should have only one repository at a time. We cannot log in. We cannot log in 4 developers into production repository. If I was logging into production repository, you should wait for me to come out of that repository. Once I came out of that repository, you can log in into production repository and you can do whatever you want. And again, you can come out of that particular repository. But someday you forget to log out from the production repository, log out from the production repository. If I want to log in again, you showed me 3 options, right? Reset user, continue and exit, right?
Yeah.
If I click on reset users, then your session will be gone.
Okay.
If you not saved any changes, then you will lost all of those. Again, a fresh session will be open for me.
Okay. So when it comes to production, we will have one repository, and that repository will be taking care of these jobs, and there should be a one developer dedicated to
No,
fix issues.
that's not like that. Any developer can access production repository, but
But
at a
but
time, only one developer can log in into that particular repository. That is the standard way.
Mhm.
See, if I was logged into production repository, right? If you still want to log in into production repository, you can do continue. That won't affect anything to me or you. But whenever you do some changes in the production repository, you need to save whatever you did the changes.
Okay.
Like that it was. But when it comes into development, there is no any options. If you develop something and if you schedule something in development in your local repository and it was failed, there is some issue and Sudhakar wants to fix that issue, there is no option. Either you should give your credentials to Sudhakar or users should wait for until you back from your vacation.
But it's a development. So why would you want to have someone monitor your task in development?
Yeah, no. If that is the case, then he can give the credentials. That's what I'm saying. If it is really needed, if some emergency fixing was needed, then yeah, you can give your credentials to your repository credentials to other one, so he can log in and he can do whatever the changes that needed for that particular issue in the development environment. You got my point, right?
Yeah, I got it. But once we do a complete a complete flow while scheduling a job, and we can look into that in further sessions.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. No, see, we haven't moved like how it will be work. Like if we developed some jobs in one repository, how it would work.
Yeah, once we
We
get
haven't
into
gone
the
through those
topic.
type of sessions till now. We are just at beginning state only. Like how do we configure? How do this happening? And all these type of discussions only we are doing here now.
Yeah.
So once we go to other sessions, then you can get to know like how do we do. There you will get n number of questions as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions?
So that's all from my end. And yeah, from this slide, can you please go through a quick overview of this topic
Which one?
from this session itself? On
Yeah,
the next
sure.
slide,
Sure,
an
sure.
overview.
Yeah. Okay. So at end of this session, I will tell you what is the overview of this particular slide deck. Shall we move to next slide?
Yes, please.
So updating repository is done. File formats. Okay. So once repository was created, then we need to work on our development task. For example, user has requested us to access some files. Those files are present in some locations. Okay, but whenever some files are present in some locations, right, from through data services we should have access to that particular location. That again comes to admin task. Admin should give permission to access that particular path from data services. So only we can access that particular file from the given path. Okay. So in data services, you might get doubt like what type of file formats it will support. It will support all type of file formats like .txt, .csv, .xls, .xml, whatever formats are there. So it will support all of the file formats. But in BODS, when we access these files, so we need to access file data. Like yesterday, Sudhakar has asked, like, can we move one file from one location to another location? No, that won't possible. We cannot move one file into another file location using BODS. Either we can copy that file, paste into another location by using some built-in functions, or we can remove that file. Or from that file data, we can load into another file or another table, or we can insert some data into file, or so some table data into file or some file data into file if we have access from our designer to that file path. So that file path permission will be given by admin to us. So someday user will ask you to there are some files. Those files will be placed in that particular location. From that location, you should access the files and you should read the data from that files, and you need to load that particular data into some table. Okay. So initially, whenever you don't know, like from data services, you have access to that particular path or not, you don't have any idea. And as usual process, you have chosen your file format, you have gone to your file format tab, and you have given your file format name and path, and whenever you click on save button, right there, what will happen, it won't throw any error to you. So when you will get the error like file path permission access, whenever you trigger the job, then only you will get the error like can't access the file into the given path. Like that, you will get one error message. Okay, so that type of errors you will get. If you get that type of error, you need to contact your particular admin team or platform team, so that this admin team, so they can provide or they can add that particular path into your some .pem file or something will be there. They can add that particular path into this .pem file. So later on you will get all the access. So this is how it will work. Now back to our file formats concept. So in this file formats, either we can create a new file format or we can edit the existing one. We can change the existing format like whatever the format it has, .txt, .csv and anything. We can do many manipulations with the files. And there is one important concept is there in file formats, like we can access Excel data and load it into some other files or some other tables, but directly there is no any other way to create a Excel format in BODS. So this is an important interview question. Someone will ask you, like in file formats, can we create a .xls file as a target? If they ask you this type of question, directly you can answer like, no, we cannot create direct .xls file by using BODS. It won't possible. Even indirectly also, we won't create that one. Either we should give .csv file and .csv format or .txt format. So whenever this file was generated in given path, so in that path, if we do open with, then we can choose the Excel or we can copy this data into Excel. So that's how manual work will be there. So this was the disadvantage of file formats in BODS. Any questions till now? Shall we move to next slide?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, see. So what is the use of file formats? So this by using this file formats option in Designer, we can define a structure of the file. So like whether it was delimited, whether it was not delimited, and what is the header, what is the footer, and can we skip how many rows we can skip from the file. So all these options we can work on this file formats. And once those format was created, so that format, that file, either we can use as a source or we can use as a target. And in that file format, we can have, we can add manually columns as well, like how many columns that we want to add, we can add. How, if we want to remove columns, we can remove. So those all are things today in practical session, we will going to discuss about all those things. How can we play with our file formats? Okay. So that's how file formats will work. Any questions till now? Shall we move to next slide?
Yes.
Yeah. As I mentioned, see, we can use this file format for our source or target. Either we can extract the data from a file or we can load the data into a file while making use of some inbuilt transformations. So what all are those files? It may be a delimited file, it may be a SAP, some SAP has its own formats, right? So even that type of file also it will support some unstructured text files, some unstructured binary files, some fixed width file. So there are a couple of options are there to choose. Like, there is some file which used like delimiter, like some of the files use delimiter as comma, some was using a semicolon, some of using like tab, some of using pipe, some of them using inverted comma, single inverted comma, or double inverted comma between the columns. So any type of structure it will support. And that file format, either we can use as a source or we can use it as a target as well in BODS. Any questions till now? Okay, I'm moving to next slide. As I told you, right? So these are the 5 format editor modes. File format editor mode means like whenever you want to access some files, either like if it is a first time, then this new mode will become for you. New mode is nothing but whenever you access some file from a particular path, then you should go for this new mode. In this new mode, you will have, like yesterday I show you, right, how do we create one new data flow, new job, new project, new workflow. Like that way, we need to give some right click, and if you click on new, then this file format will come. In that file format, we can choose what we call the we can choose whatever the file was needed in which path. So that path information, that file name, and how do we want, what all are the delimiters that the file was available, whether it is a comma, semicolon, or whatever the delimiter that was file was used. And we can have, if the file has date values, so in which format it should be loaded into target. Even that format also we can give. We can skip row headers, we can go for all of these options. So these are the file format options that are available. If we if we want to import any of the file into our designer. So once this file was imported into our designer, we can make that file as our source or target. If it is a source, little options will be changed. If it is a target, then there are a couple of options will be changed. Those will be discussed, and those we will discuss in our practical session. So once a new file was imported, right? So that file we can edit as well. So for suppose in some tools, once the file was imported, right, again we cannot make any changes to that particular whatever the configuration that we done. But here in BODS, either we can change those, we can do any number of changes we want by using this edit mode. So once this format was defined in our designer, right, from this configuration, we can do edit of that particular file. We can do whatever the changes that are required for us. For example, whenever we access a file from a particular path first time, we don't know, like we have skipped some of the options. We don't know, like, okay, this option will work like that, that option will work like that. So that time what we will do, we can go to the edit mode and we can do whatever the changes that are required for us. So these are the 4 modes that are available when we work with our file formats. Okay, any questions till now?
Yeah, Venkat. So step 2 and the step 3, source mode and edit mode. So it allows, in the source mode, it allows you to edit the file format. Whereas in the edit mode also, it allows you to edit an existing file format template. What is mean by template, format template, and file format of particular source?
Okay, format template. So you have accessed your file, right? In that file, out of 100 columns, because if you selected any of the delimiter, right, it will divide those columns as well. Out of 100 columns, you just want 10 columns initially, and later on, like whenever there is some other requirement comes, you have some other they want you to include some other columns into the file which are already exist. That time what you will do, you can go for this edit mode and you can edit that particular template, because whenever you configure a file inside a repository, right, you can change whatever you want. You got my point, right?
So
Hello?
you mean to say that if suppose a file format having 100 columns, and that is first time I configured and it was moved to the target system, and now would like to edit this format template to and reduce the columns to 80 columns. This is helpful, right?
Yeah, this edit mode is helpful, but the source and target modes are different. So once this new mode and edit mode, once you're done with that, so
Yeah.
this file format will be saved in your repository metadata. So from there you can choose. So if you want to use that as a source or if you want to use that as a target.
So okay. So now my first step is the file with 100 columns is moved to the target system, and the very next day I reduce the format of this template of the file and
Mm.
reduce it to 80 columns. So
Mm.
again, I would like to replace. It is going to replace the target file, or else it is will create a
Okay.
new.
So see, that depends on how your file was used in your project. Okay.
Okay.
For example, you have like how you configure data store, right? That way you should configure this file, and this format will be stored as like one file format in the repository metadata. That format you can use as a source or you can use as a target. So that depends on how your project requirement was. The same file you cannot use for source and target at a time
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
was completely
I
technically wrong. It was like that, it was.
okay.
Any other questions? Shall I move to next slide, please?
Yeah.
Okay. So in our file format, we have like properties. Properties is nothing but like how do we define our file? I told you, no, right? Uh, we can skip how many rows we want to skip. Do you want to consider like first row as our header or date format if the file has any of the date formats? So do we need to give that date formats whatever the format, because some user want like there are a couple of date formats are there, right? YYMMDD or YYYY hyphen MM hyphen DD. So these all are the properties that we have in our file formats editor as well. Coming to column attributes, as I mentioned previously, column attributes are nothing but these column attributes. So either we can have many columns, and once those columns are defined, we can assign some manual values to those columns, or even if the file have 100 columns, we can choose only few of the columns from that 100 columns, or we can choose all of the columns from that file. Data preview, once the file was imported to designer, right, it has, we can select top 1000 rows or top 100 rows or top 10 rows. It depends on how the admin has configured in designer. So we can see the records in that particular file as well, few of the records. So that's how the file format editor will work for us. Any questions till now? Shall we move to next slide? Okay. So now see. So these all are the file formats. So if you click on these flat files, right? Flat files is nothing but .txt delimited files, we can say. If you want to have Excel files, you can go for this Excel files. Or if we have like Hadoop or HDFS files, then we can go for this. Or some nested schemas files, we can choose for nested, or COBOL files we can have. But different file formats, we have different options here in this our designer. In this flat files, we can go for delimited files. So here it will support .csv, .txt, yeah. So far we have worked on the .txt and .csv file formats only. So this file we can do right click here, and we can import those files while giving the properties. Properties here nothing but like file path, file name. How do we want to consider the first row of the file, skipping row header, all of these options we can choose. So these all are the file formats. So here see, we can right click here, and so that we will get new option. If we click on this new option, then we can select the file format, enter the delimited separator of that that particular file, and we can do whatever we want from there. I will show you practically so that you can understand this file format options. How do we make use of this file format options? How do we create a file? How do we edit a file? How can we make use of this file format as our source or our target? So these are our options. I will explain you in a practical session. So these all are the options that are available when you want to create one file. It was delimited, fixed width, or SAP transport, or unstructured text, unstructured binary. So we can choose all of these options. And here, location of the file, where it was located, and directory, that means path, and file name in that particular path. What is the file name of that? And delimiters. What all are the delimiters? Like a comma, if we want to use comma, or semicolon, or column, or pipeline. If any other delimiter that they use, we can give custom delimiters as well here. And see here, this date time formats, we can choose all the formats here, and headers, all these options. Whenever we go for practical session, I will explain all these options to you. Any questions till now? So editing a file, I will show you in the practical session how do we edit a file. So yeah, so I am facing some issue with logging into Designer. So meantime, we will go to our management console, and I will explain you what all are the options that are available. Okay. So whenever either you can save this URL, like this URL you can save in Notepad or somewhere, or you can bookmark this URL here in our browser, and you can click, and whenever you log in into this, right, you need to give the host username and password. If you click on login, then you will get this page in the management console. So this was the basic welcome page of management console. So how do you identify this? So here you can see SAP Data Services Management Console. This is a URL based console. So our most of the part should be rely on this administrator part only. Okay. So should I mention, right, by using this administrator and all, so we can do whatever we want. Like we can schedule the job, we can have we can kill the job, we can abort the job, we can see the trace log, error log, and monitor log, whatever we want. So if we click on this, it will open like this. So either these all are the available repositories in this data services. Here we can see even we can see here the repositories, or even you can see the repositories here. So from there, whichever repository and whichever job that you want, you can click on that particular repository, and you can go for this. If any of the jobs are running here, then you can get all the information here. This was the batch job status tab. And coming to batch job configuration tab, here you will see here the project wise, you can see the jobs that are available in this repository. So let me move to some other repo if we have any information. Till now we have created the job, but those jobs are not moved to any project. So only we are not seeing any of the jobs in the batch job configuration.
So in production, we will be using this data service management console, right? To monitor the job.
For monitoring the job, we will use this management console.
So where we can see this statistics of the jobs, how it is performing. I mean, the profile
Here you
profile
will see.
report.
Sorry.
Yesterday you said that there is a profiler repository, right? We have three repositories. One is local and a
Okay.
central, and then yeah. So
Profiler repository we can't see. So yesterday I mentioned about this thing, right? What we call operational dashboard.
yeah, operational. Yes, yes.
Yes. So that we can see. See, this was the operational dashboard.
So job statistics and
Yes.
okay.
Here the graphical representation will come, and here numbers will display, and here all the listed jobs will be. You can see. You can
Okay,
have
so
like last
and
24 hours, last
and
7 days.
okay, I see repository and the name. The name is referring to a job description or else a person responsible.
Sorry, can you come again?
On the right side pane, I see repository name, start time, and end time. So repository and the concerned job name or else
No, it was
person.
concerned repositories, which
No,
all
no,
are associated with the
to the right side, to the right side pane. Yeah, here. Here I see repository name, start time, and end time.
Okay. In which repository? What is the job name? What is the start time? What is the end time?
Okay. So here we can't see the person responsible to which
No, we
job.
can't see anything here.
Okay.
Only thing like the job status only we can see here. If we choose all repositories, then all the repository jobs, which if the job is there in some other which job is from which repository, that list you can see, and what is the start time of the job and what is the end time of the job. If the job was not yet completed, it was still in running mode, then end time will not come here. And also like in between the dates, for example, if you want to see, if you have logs, then if you want to see last 6 months or last 3 months or last 1 month something, you can go for that thing as well. Like you can select the between the date ranges as well here. Okay. So most of the times you won't use this operational dashboard. You will be in your real-time project, you will be using this administrator only. If you go to this administrator, whichever repository, for example, your job is there in BODS repository or export soft repository or repo SAP BODS, then you can go to that repository. Or else the same repositories you can open in different 3 tabs. Open in new tab, open in new tab, open in new tab. So in 3 tabs, you will have 3 different repositories. This is for a repo SAP BODS, and this is for what we call the repo BODS, and this is for export soft repository. And whatever the jobs that you will have, right, you will get job name and system configuration. This system configuration is nothing but whenever you configure this job server, right, to access some system, to have some special access. So this system configuration was needed for us. Otherwise, it won't be needed for us. And then job server, on which job server your particular job is running. If you select a job server group, it will pick only one job server at a time. So that job server, on which job server your job is running. Job information. Job information means like on which project folder your job is there. What is the start time of the job? If the job was completed, what is the end time? Duration of the job. Duration means like how much time the particular job was done. It will come as like HHMMSS format. Like that it was. Any questions here?
Not in this tab.
Sorry?
Not in this specific tab.
Okay,
Have
okay. and see here, like I will go one by one options here. See, badge of status means you can see this screen. If you click on this screen, then the same screen will be visible to you. And job name was there, right? For suppose in your this export soft repository, there are couple of jobs are there, couple of projects. Project means folder. In that folder, couple of jobs are there, but folder will don't won't come here. It will show only the jobs here. If the jobs are there, then couple of jobs will be comes here. So that jobs you can select, and you can view the logs of that job. If you want to see only particular job how many times executed in a single day, then you can go for this last execution of the job, and you can choose last 1 days, last 2 days, last 3 days. You can select whatever you want here, last 10 days till 90 days you have. For example, I have one job, I just want to see last 30 days logs, and in that 30 days log I just want to have on which day the job has warning or error, or what is the success rate of that particular job. So in that case, what you do, you can select that job from this drop down, or if you know the job name directly, you can give the job name. For example, your job name has some name like this, you can select your job name here, and you can go for this last execution of the job. And what is the duration, like duration means like how many days before you want the logs. So if I want last 30 days, then I can give last 30 days here. If I click on search button, then all the information of the job will come here, like job name, system configuration, on which server, on what day, on which server, job server the job was triggered. Job information means like on which project that particular job was there, and start time of the job, at what time the particular job was started, on which date, and time, what is the duration of the job on that particular day. So these all are the informations are available. So download logs or debug package means like there is some statistical profiler repository will come pictured into here. Like if we click on this, it will download some logs. Logs means like the duration, the start time, some few of the print statement, few of the lines from trace log, few of the lines from monitor log, few of the lines from trace log. So from here you will get all the information. So this option was not needed for us for now. Only like once the job was executed, you will get the trace log, error log, monitor log. So that thing you can download, you can open here as well. Okay. And
So if I have all jobs, and how we can identify which job is executing and which is not?
no, if some job is executing, it will comes as a blue symbol,
Okay.
blue color. And if the job was completed, it was comes under green symbol, green tick mark will come.
Okay.
And if the job has warning, then it will come as some explanatory mark with yellow color. If the job was failed, it will come as some dark circle with into mark.
Okay. So warnings can be ignored, right?
Warnings can be ignored. It was something like syntactical warnings. So we no need to worry about warnings. Okay. And so
And if a failed job is need to be triggered again, so I don't see any option here.
no, here there is no option. If you go to batch job configuration, okay, there you find the list of the jobs that are available in this particular repository. Here action will there, right? In this action you can have execute or schedule, and what we called export to something option will be there. There are three options will be there. One is for execute the job, one is for scheduling the job, one is for export the batch command for that particular job. So these three type of options will be there. From here, if you click on execute, you can click, you can run the job.
So to kill a job?
To kill a job, again you need to come the batch job status. So here this job will comes, right? Whenever it was running, it will have some blue mark. So in this checkbox will be there. You can select that checkbox and you can click on abort. So job will be aborted automatically.
Okay, there is another tab, repository scheduler.
Yeah, repository schedules. Yeah, this repository schedules is nothing but, so whenever you created one schedule, right? So those scheduling information will be available. So what is the schedule name of that particular job? On which job server or which job server group it was scheduled? What is the job name? If any system configuration was required, configured while we scheduling the job, so that system configuration information, and whether the schedule was active or not. If it is active, then it will comes as yes. If it is not active, then it will comes as no. That's how it would be.
And I would like to see give a try, like execute to schedule a job and monitor that and kill and rerun, and would
Yeah,
like to
because for
see all
now I
those.
don't say there is some issue with the designer. Even I sent an email to the corresponding team, so they are working on that. I
Yeah,
could not able to log into repository.
not today. Maybe some other time. Because
Yeah, some other time I will definitely show you like how the job, how can we monitor the job, how can we know like this job was still running. Sometimes in this page, in this was the home page of this monitoring tab, but what happens, you need to refresh that page. Like
okay. So
you need
refresh the
to,
page means, do we have an option here, or else
no, we need
directly?
to like for suppose you have refreshed this page while clicking on this search option. If you click on this search option, then it will refresh the file. You need not to go and reload this page. You can click on this search option or you can click on this batch job status. Then this page will be refreshed for you. Okay. So you can see the latest updates of the particular job, whether it was completed, whether it was still running, whether it was having some issue, whether it has warnings. So you can see the status of that particular job here. And these three options are there, right? Ignore error status, delete, abort. Abort, I already explained. If some job is still running, if you want to manually abort that job, then you can go for, you can select that particular job. Here, select all. If the jobs are there, this type of checkbox will come. You can click on that checkbox here. So you can abort that particular job. If you click on abort, the particular job will be aborted. And one more thing, if you click on this select all, if you click on abort, then whatever the jobs are running, right, all will be aborted at a time. So while clicking on these checkbox, you should very much careful. That is done. And on some day, what happens, there is a job which is running daily once, and due to some issue it was failed. You have tried for executing 4 to 5 times. Even that time also it got failed, and the view of this home page was looks like something clumsy and something not as good as before. Some reddish color or something it was coming here in this home page. So you want to delete that particular job status here. So that time what you will do, you will select whichever the jobs that you want to delete. So you can click on those checkbox. If you click on delete, then those job logs will be gone. You cannot see the job status here in this page.
And
Even
the same job on another day it got successful will be reflecting here, right? Without doing any changes.
yes, that won't affect for the next day schedule.
Okay.
But you won't find the logs of that particular job. Even you won't get the trace log, error log, and a monitor log from here. Even in the backend, like in data services backend file manager, you can get the trace log, but you need to identify which one was related to this job.
Okay.
Yeah, like that it was.
So it will only delete from the on today's schedule.
not schedule. Today's run status was there, right? Job status.
Yeah.
So that status information we will lost here if we do delete. It won't affect anything on the scheduling of the job.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah. What about this one? Ignore error status.
Yeah. Next, I will move to next that topic only.
Okay.
So, like I told you, right? If the job was failed, right, it will comes under reddish color. Red color spot will be there, and with some into mark. And you don't want to, like you won't feel that type of rubbish screen your home page. So what you will do, you will select all of those jobs, and if you click on this ignore error status, then that reddish color will be converted into greenish color. That is how this option will work here. And still you can see the error log, monitor log, and what we call trace log, everything you can see, but the job tick mark will be there, right? So that will becomes as a green mark with right tick mark. So that's all about all these three options. And I forgot to tell you these two options. So I told you this option, like on each day, if the job it will, while selecting this option for last 30 days, it will give the latest success or failure of the job on past 30 days. That means, for example, on some day the job was triggered as per schedule, and the latest and the job was failed, and you have manually triggered the job for 3 to 4 times. On fourth run the job was got success, then that is the latest status of that particular job, right? So if you select this last execution of the job for 30 days, then it will give only the latest success on that particular day. That information only you will get. You got my point, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, so the first option was clear. Now coming to second option, if we select second option for 30 days, it will give all the 30 days logs. But this, while selecting this option, what happens, like on particular day, how many times the job was ran, whether it was success or failed, or whether it has warnings, how many times the job was triggered, or how many times the job was ran. Until and unless if we delete the logs, we won't get. But if we won't delete the logs, we will get all the information from this option. For example, from last 30 days, one job you have ran it for 4 times or 5 times. Even those information also included in this option if you select this option. But if you select this option, those 4 to 5 times if you ran that job in particular day, right, those information won't available. It will give only latest success or failure of that particular job while selecting this option. It will give all, like how many times if you trigger that job, it will give all that information. Clear, right? You're not getting confusion between these two options, right? Hello?
Yes, Venkat, no confusion.
Yeah. So now the final option, if you go to this final option, all executions. So if we select this all executions, we need to give the dates between. If we want to, if we want to see the job execution status between the dates, then we should go for this all executions between the dates. This time, this 30 days option or something was there, right? These option won't work. Only from date to date option will work if we select for this all executions, and it will give all the executions of the job. We can say this option combination of these two along with date values in simple way.
Okay.
Understood, right?
Yes. So Venkat, where we can mention that the sequence of execution. For example, I have 3 batches. So first I want to execute third, then I want to execute first and second. That kind of sequence where we can mention.
Okay, one first job was completed, then second job, then third job, right?
No. I have 1, 2, 3 jobs. First I want to execute third, then 1, then 2.
Okay.
That
So
kind of.
here you can do that one. This batch job configuration. A list of jobs will come, and whichever job you want to execute first, then that job you can click on execute button, and you can execute that job.
Okay.
Now we are not able to see the job list here due to some issue in the designer level. So only this list of jobs are not coming here. If any jobs comes, then I can show you that option as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you want to schedule, initially if you want to schedule any job, you need to come this batch job configuration. There's some schedule action there, right? In this action column. So you have 3 options. One is execute, one is schedule, one is export, execute, command, something option will be there. So these 3 options will be there with comma separated. So if you want to execute, you can click on that execute. If you want to schedule, you can click on schedule. If you want to export that as a .bat file, then you can export that job. But this export is different, and in designer, inside the designer, that export is different. That export is for .atl file, and this export is for .bat file. This BAT file is not for nothing but batch script. Even we can take our BODS job, and we can have that batch script of that particular job, and we can run that batch script from the designer as well. Even that option also there.
So Venkat, do we have like email configuration or in the designer or something? For example, I executed one job, so I'm loading the data from flat files to database. There is some error, so the job was failed. Can we, capture that error and send a email to some group of people?
Yes.
That kind.
Yes, that type of options are there.
That one
There
we
is
have in
email function is there.
in configuration or like in the designer?
No, in the designer level only. Inside the designer, some inbuilt functions are there.
Okay.
Like if you go to the miscellaneous function, there SMTP2.
Okay.
That function is there. While using that function, you need to give email recipients list there, comma, how many, what is the subject of that email, okay, and then if you want to give any of the default message like description, then you can give description, and you can have how many lines of trace log you want, how many lines of error log you want. So that information you can make use of that SMTP2 function that will take care of if any failures that was happened, then you will get that email to your inbox.
Okay, so that is workflow level or data flow level? So.
It's all about like on data flow level only, because actual our flow will be there in data flow, right?
Yes.
So in try catch block, you can have that one.
Okay, in the catch we can mention these.
Yeah, you can in catch block we can have one script. In that script, inside that script, we can call that function.
Okay.
So if any system defined error comes, right? So at that time it will throw some error. It will go to the catch block, and by using this SMTP function, you will get the email alert as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So these all are the options that are available in batch job configuration. So initially, when you click on this batch job configurations, right, whatever the repositories that are associated with this data services, right? So all the projects for that particular repository, for example, this was the expert soft repository. For this, we have some 5 to 6 projects are there. So if you want to see all the project jobs, you can see, or if you want to see only few of the only selected project jobs, you can select all that option as well. So those jobs will be displayed here. But as per recommendation, as per standard process, this will be all projects only. So from this, if you want any of the jobs, then you can trigger that one. So once you trigger that job, then that job will comes here into this batch job status. That is as running more, or if it is completed very faster, then it will becomes as a tick mark with the green color and green color bubble. So that is all about batch job configuration. Any questions till now? Bob, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. So repository schedules. If I go to this repository schedules, once the job was scheduled, the scheduling information will be there. Like what is the scheduling name? What is the job server configured while scheduling? What is the job name? If system configuration was needed, then if we choose system configuration, then that will be displayed here. Whether that particular schedule was active or not, that information will be come here like yes or no. If you want to activate the if you want to activate the schedule, right, you can select that one and you can click on active. If you want to deactivate that particular schedule, then you can set that particular schedule name and you can click on deactivate. And if some of the deactivated schedules are there, if you don't want to see those details in this repository schedules, if you want to remove that, you can select that particular schedule, you can click on remove. Clear, right? Any questions regarding these three tabs? If designer was working fine for us, then I can show you more about these details so that you will get some real-time experience. While saying all of this, it was like you won't get 100% clarity here.
Yes, okay. Anyway, we can revisit again once we create some projects.
Yeah, sure. Maybe like by using this file format, right? So I will show you like how do we access the file, how do we define some templates or some rules on that particular file. So how can we make that file format as a source, and how do we make a few of the basic transformations, and how do we map the source columns to target, how do we load that into some template table. So these things we will see once our designer tool will work properly. So for now, shall we continue with this theoretical concepts? Shall we go for next module, maybe practical session? Still, we have a couple of time. So shall we move to next module?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. You can see my screen, right?
I can see it.
Okay. So in our next module, we will get to know like what is the batch job, how do we create a batch job, how do we add the objects into batch jobs, how do we navigate from one panel to another panel. That means how do we go inside a workflow, how do we go inside a data flow, how do we make use of objects like tables, how do we make use of a table as a source or target, and how do we make use of transformation. So these all things we will going to learn in these things. And Also, like I mentioned you right in management console, how do we delete the job specific job from the console? And once for some time, whenever we are working in a project, sometimes after a long time we will need to work on some cleanup activity as well. So that time what happens, you need to delete one by one objects. So when we comes from higher level to low level, right? So should I explain you like project is the first thing. So hierarchy wise, if you go, project will becomes as first, and inside that project we can have n number of project. Project is nothing but a folder. We can create n number of folder inside a repository. So in that project we can have n number of batch jobs. So in that batch jobs, we have n number of workflows. In that workflows, we have n number of data flows. In that data flows, we make use of transformations, sources, tables, or file formats. Those are the source or target we can use. So whenever we want to delete something, right? So I just want to delete one job from my local repository. So at that time, we should come from lower hierarchy. First, if the job contain any of the custom functions, we need to delete first custom functions, and then tables, and then transformations, and then data flow, and then workflow, and then job, and then project. That way we need to delete if we want to delete any project or job. If we come from higher hierarchy, right, it won't allow you to delete the job because it will throw some error like the dependent objects are not deleted. Like that error it will throw. So that we will see how do we delete the job. And these save and deleted generated files like .atl files, how can we save, how can we delete those, and this .bat file where it will create and how we can delete those. So all those things we will learn in this module. So basically, what is a batch job? If someone asks you, what will a batch job will do? Can someone answer me?
So in general, it will extract data from one location to some other location. That is the main.
Yeah,
Batch,
that is the main
job.
agenda of a batch job.
Yeah.
That's right. So inside a batch job, what it will do, it will check for the metadata, it will check for the objects, what and all we have used. It will check for the sequential execution of the objects. It will check for the parallel execution of the objects, and it will check for if we defined any of the performance tuning options. So a batch job is nothing but it will do the data processing by using our OS. Okay, batch job is nothing but it will process the data from one system to another system by using our OS system, which we call it as a automatic processing. Okay, and also inside a batch job, whatever the objects are there, right? It might be a workflow, it might be a data flow. So these workflows we can connect it as a sequentially, or we can connect it as a parallelly as well. We can do parallel execution, we can do sequence execution. For example, there is a requirement comes, right? Like whenever uh, some user told you like there are 5 tables that needs to be load the data, but those data should be first table should be loaded first, and once that load was done, then I should go for the second table load, because once the first table data was loaded, then that data act as a source for second table, so that data will be loaded, and like that it will be dependent on one on another. So like that, we need to develop a flow. That time what you will do, you need to go for a sequential processing. Sequential processing is nothing but once after another it will execute. If one is failed, then the remaining will be not triggered. Then the entire job will be aborted for us. You got clarity, right? Sequence.
So in this case, in one workflow, we can maintain 5 data flows in the sequence, right? So
yeah, inside a workflow, you can have 5 or 10 or 20 or 30, whatever you need.
we can execute in the sequence format.
Yes. Not only for data flow, even for workflow as well. Inside
If
a job, you can connect.
If there is no any like relation, it will execute individually, right? So in a workflow, I have 5 or 10 data flows. There is no any like sequence or relation.
Connectivity between those.
Yeah, then it will execute by
Parallel. That's
parallel,
known as a parallel execution. Then one data flow don't depend on any other data flow. If it is gets some signals, then it will process the data and it will load the data into target, finish it off. It won't wait for any other data flow should be completed.
Okay.
Like that it was. So that is the difference between sequential and parallel. Sequence is nothing but like one flow is completed, then it will go to the another flow. Parallel is nothing but whatever it might be, it won't depend on one flow. Like it won't depend on any other flows. Clear, right?
Yes. So if you have a like connectivity, then it will execute in the sequence. If there is no connectivity, then it will execute parallel.
Yeah, correct. And also in a job, you can have both sequence and parallel. For example, there is a requirement, out of 5 tables, we want to execute 3 tables sequentially and 2 tables parallelly. Okay. So that time what you will do, you will take 2 workflows. In that workflow, one workflow for sequential execution, one workflow for parallel execution. So inside this sequence execution, you can take 3 data flows and you can have your transformation logic inside those data flows, and those data flows should be connected sequentially. And coming to parallel workflow, inside that parallel workflow, you can have 2 data flows which should not be connected between them, which is not dependent on each other, and it can be executed parallelly. But coming to both sequence and parallel, which will be executed faster, means the parallel execution will completed faster. The data processing will be faster in parallel execution. But then you might ask a question like, then why users are going for sequential execution? Why not for parallel execution if it is processing faster? Because it's all depends on requirement. It's all depends on data dependency on one table with another table. So only this parallel and sequence concepts are came into picture. Clear, right? And also, like in parallel execution, if any flow fails, it won't wait for it. The job won't abort. It will come. It will complete remaining flows, and end of that job, right? In the error log, you can see the error message. Like in parallel execution, whichever flows it has failed, right? That error message you can see. Clear, right?
Can you repeat the last item, the last points?
Okay. So in parallel execution, like in parallel workflow, inside that, in a workflow, inside that workflow, we have parallel data flows. There are 3 parallel data flows, out of which one data flow was failed. So in that time, the remaining 2 data flows won't affect it.
Okay.
It will continue to load the data. So when you will get to know that information, like the first data flow was failed at end of the job. Once the job was completed, right? If the job was completed, it will completed with into mark, into and red color symbol. So then you can go to the error log and you can see the error message for that particular failure. That is the advantage of parallel processing. If it is a sequence processing, right? If inside a data flow, inside a workflow, if the data flows are connected sequentially, right? If one data flow is failed, the whole job will be failed. It won't go for next data flows to be executed. Got my point, right?
Yes.
Okay. So no questions, right, till now? Or do you have any other questions? Shall we move to next slide?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So now batch job. So for a batch job, there are some properties are there. Okay. If you created one batch job in your personal repository, if for example, I am a developer, I have created a job in my repository. Okay. So that time, no other person can modify my batch job until and unless I provided my credentials to them. He cannot make any single change in my local repository. Okay, that is the first thing. And second thing is, we have these performance tuning options, right? There are a couple of performance tuning options are available in BODS. Whenever we develop some jobs, I will explain you what all are the performance tuning options are available at different levels. That time we will have some discussion about that. So even it will do the partitioning as well. The data flow level, we have one option called degree of parallelism. By default, it will be default. Maximum value, we can give it as 5. Okay, so in that case, it will, in background, it will do the partitioning of that particular data flow. So what it will do, if we give degree of parallelism as 5, it will divide the data flow to execute the 5 parallel threads in the backend, so that the data processing will be little faster than this default option. So that is the one advantage in the batch job. So we cannot do we cannot apply this degree of parallelism or this partitioning at job level. This partitioning will happen at data flow level. So while using that option, we can have parallel processing of the data, which will be faster retrieving or faster loading into the target table. Like that it was. So that is the second point. And as I mentioned, a system administrator can create change. Yeah, as an admin, if I was an admin, I can modify anything in any repository in any of the developer. But you guys cannot identify that, because developer don't have that type of access to view like who has made changes in my local repository until and unless admin has given some information to you. So that is the disadvantage, one of the disadvantages in the data services. And also, once you log in into any of the repository, right? So you will get only all the information, all the job details about that repository only. So you cannot see at a time the other repository. Okay, you got my point, right? That is all about these properties of a batch job. Any questions till now? Shall I move to next slide then? Okay, so now the process for creating a batch job. As I show you yesterday, right? You can create a batch job in your local object library and job tab. You can go there and you can do right click, and there you can create on new. If you create on new, you will get 2 tabs. From that, if you want to create a batch job, you can create, or if you want to create a real-time job, you can create. So that depends on what type of jobs that you want. So in our scenario, we want to create so you just want to create one batch job in our case. So you can choose for the batch job and you can create your batch job. So that is the process. Click on the system administration, inquiries, batch job or batch jobs. Either you can go this way or you can go like in a local object library. You can click on the jobs tab. You can do right click there. You can click on new. You can choose for the batch job configuration, or directly you can click on the control N button as well. Once you click on the job tab, right, you can do control N as well. It will directly asking you for batch job or real-time job. So while selecting batch job, you can give the batch job name there, and if you click on the create button, one batch job will be created for you. After creation of the batch job, you need to save that one. Otherwise, the metadata of that particular job batch job won't save in backend table. So this enter the description for the batch job. Description is nothing but name of the job, and if you want to give some description, you can give like what this job is for. You can give the description as well, and it will be showing in your local object library. And if you want to schedule the job, right, there is no any other options available in Designer. You must go to your management console. There only you can schedule any of the job. There is no any other options available in Designer to directly you can schedule the job. The only one and only option is available in Designer, right? You can execute the job, but you cannot schedule the job from the Designer. Clear, right, till now? Or you have any questions? Are you guys are feeling bored?
No, Venkat, we're clear on this.
Sorry, Siddhartha.
No questions on this slide, so we're clear on.
Okay, so you guys are feeling bored? Okay, let me move to next slide. I told you, no, like once you create the batch job, you need to save the job. I shown you the options, right? You can directly click on that option, or you can do Control S, so that the job will be saved. It won't ask you for like on which file manager location I just want to save the job. So these type of information it won't ask. Directly it will save in your metadata repository or repository metadata table. And recurrence means whenever you schedule a job, right, then only this recurrence option will come. Whenever we are going to schedule a job, that time I will explain you about this recurrence button. And alert. Alert is nothing but email alert. So we can configure that email alert by using BODS inbuilt functions. So that can be possible. Any questions in this slide? Okay. Let me move on to next slide. Here. In this batch job section, if we want to this was the process how to create a batch job. In the batch job, once we created a batch job, we can, if we go to the next tab, right, in workflow tab, in the what we call it, local object library, we have workflow tab. There we can create one workflow and we can name that workflow, and we can click on the save button. So once that workflow was created, we can drag that workflow and place inside this job. And we can add description for that workflow as well. Even for data flow also same applicable. Even only, yeah, these four types only. For project, we can have project name and description. For job, we have job name and description. For workflow, we have workflow name and description. For data flow, we have data flow and data flow description. So these are the 4 types of options that we can give for name and description. But for a table, we cannot give. Even for custom functions also, we can give description. Even for file format also, we can have description. So these all are the points that here in this slide deck they have explained. Okay. Any questions in this slide deck? Okay, I'm moving into the next slide. So yeah, so once you created the batch job, in that batch job, you are taking one workflow. You are taking inside that workflow one data flow. We have taken in that inside that data flow one table, and whatever the transformations table or file format or whatever the transformations you needed, that all those things that you have taken, and you are now ready to execute the job now. Okay, so before you execute any of the job, any batch job, you need to save that job. If you directly click on execute button, right, in the designer tab, so if you click on execute tab, it will ask again you for save the changes or save the changes whatever you made. That type of pop out it will show you, and it will give you yes or no commands. While clicking on this yes command, so all whatever the changes that you have done, it will be saved, and the execution tab will be open in designer. Okay, that's how it will work. So that is the process they have explained in each point here. Any questions here? I'm moving to the next slide deck then. So these all are the options. So these all are the points that they have explained. How do what all are the process? So how do we create workflows, data flows? How do we save till from creation of the project till execution of the job? What all are the steps that we need to follow? So these all are the 13 steps that they have explained to us. So navigate the form. Navigate the form is nothing but I told you, right? There is some pop-up will come, and there is we can validate our coding. We can validate our transformation logic. If we click on this um, if we click on this validate all or validate, then there is some pop-up window will come. If there is any syntactical error will be there, then we will get those type of windows inside a designer. Our data services will do automatic validation of the flow or coding or whatever we call it as our logic. Then if any syntactical error it will found, then it will throw some error like on this particular flow or data flow or workflow, whatever, wherever the issue was there, it will give that particular name and a little description of that particular error. So while clicking on that error, it will directly send you to that particular error, and you can correct that particular error. And I told you email functionality. Email functionality, before we make use of SMTP2 functions, right? Admin should configure some emails like from receptions will be there, right? Whenever we are sending one email from our Outlook or email sites, right? So we should mention our from address. So that from address admin should be configured inside BODS CMC console. Then only we can make use of this send to SMTP2 functionality. So that is how they have explained in this slide deck. Any questions? Okay. I'm moving to the next slide deck. Yeah. I told you, like how do we delete the job hierarchy wise? If we want to delete any of the batch job, then we should come from custom functions so till job level. So from lower level to higher level. Lower level is first of all custom functions. If the job was using any of the custom functions, we need to delete first of all those custom functions. And then we can click on delete button. And then we need to come for the tables. If the job was using any of the tables, then we need to delete those tables first. Once the tables are deleted, we need to delete the transformations inside a data flow. So once tables, transformations, and custom functions are deleted, then directly we can delete the data flow. So once the data flow was deleted, then the next higher level is workflows. Then we can directly delete the workflows. Once the workflow was deleted, then the next higher level was batch job. We can directly delete the batch job. So even when we do the transport as well, right, from local repository to central repository, we should follow this process only. First of all, we need to add the custom functions to central repository, and then this data store configurations to the central repository, and then tables which are associated with that particular data store, and then data flows, and then workflows, and then job, and then project. So remember these things. Whenever we want to do the transport through the central repository, we should come from lower level to higher level. And whenever we want to do deletion of any of the batch job, we should come from lower level to higher level. Okay, clear, right? Or do you want to explain you one more time? Are you noting down all these points, or how you guys are doing these things? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, Shankar. We are noting this information. Whatever we are saying on those points, we are noting.
Okay. Just stop me if you want to noting down and I was a little faster, then stop me so that I can continue.
Yeah,
Any
because
questions?
anyways, we will be having this, right? We are making note of major points wherever we require.
Okay.
But anyways,
So if I was moving little faster, right, you can stop me anytime.
Sure.
Yeah. So there is no any doubts here, right? No questions right here.
No, as of.
Okay. I will be moving to next slide. These all are the like batch job files. I told you, like whenever a batch job runs, right, it will create .txt files in backend for this trace log, monitor log, error log. So these all are the files. So these files where it will be available for us. So from designer, we directly won't see these files, or from management console, we won't see. From central management console, we won't see these files. So where we can see these files. So in our file manager, whenever we install our design data services tool, right, that time it will ask for a path to install our BODS tool. So whichever path we have given, right, in that path, in bin folder, there is a folder called bin. In that bin folder, if you go inside that bin folder, you will find out a log folder. In that log folder, you have three type of folders again, subfolders. In that three folders, you have trace log, monitor log, error log. There you can find your corresponding job, trace log, error log, monitor logs. So if you want to delete something, because why we want to delete those files? Because if we won't do cleanup activity, this cleanup activity as a developer we want to do, because no one will give access for us. As an admin, he should do that cleanup activity. He might write some Windows command or something he will do, but we are not supposed to delete that. As per our information, we need to keep in mind in that concept. So For example, there are a couple of jobs are running after like maybe 1 year or 2 year. Huge amount of files were created in this logging folder. So it will affect on our server system, in which system we have configured our BODS server. It will impact memory issues on that particular server. That time you can go to this configuration path. In that bin folder, in that logs folder, you can delete the huge size of files. So you can delete those so that it will reduce the memory. So that way we can do that one. So this is how this slide deck will explain to us.
Can't we do this via a scheduled job?
No, scheduled job we cannot do this.
So this
It
is a
won't
manual
possible.
thing.
No, it was a manual thing. Or as an admin, if you know some Windows scripts, you can write some Windows script so that it will automatically delete the files on a
So,
regular basis, like the last 15 days files, last 20 days files.
so
Older
in general, how it works in other organizations?
in general organizations, they have some Windows scripts, inbuilt scripts to delete last 90 days files. Older than 90 days files, they will be deleted.
So how we can get that Windows scripts and where we can do that?
That is like IT team will take care. They have some idea about that. We need to contact our IT team so that
Okay.
they will provide this Windows script, so that we need to schedule that Windows scheduler or something. Some options are there. We can make use of that. But
So
from design
what if we don't delete this?
no, if you don't delete this, then it will consume your server memory. Then your file manager or whatever, whatever the size of your repository, what we call it, file manager size will be there, right? It will occupy your space in your system.
And this will degrade the performance.
No, it won't affect on your job or nothing. It will impact. It will impact on your system where the BODS server was installed. That system got impacted.
Okay.
If you are saving the file formats or something you are saving, right, that time this job won't run properly. That was the rare case. Maybe if you are working on a bigger project and that project was running for a couple of years and files are like generating huge volume of files, these log files, then only you will get this type of error. In my career, 1 or 2 times only I saw this type of issues.
So this is some skipping activities.
Yeah, cleanup activity, we can say. Any questions?
That's all.
Okay. Yeah, that's all about like this batch job configurations and all. So from today's session, if you have any questions, you can ask me, because I just want to have some practical session, but unfortunately our BODS tool is not working properly. So I could not go with some practical session today. So if you have any questions related to our today's discussion, or if you have any other questions other than our today's discussion, you can ask me.
Yeah, Venkat, whatever we discussed now are 2 PDF files. So it would be better if we do it practically so that we can
Yes.
look into
So
the
yeah.
navigations.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So
We can
whenever
look
we
into the
go
navigation.
practically, right, you will get n number of questions. How, why, what, and how these all are happen. So these type of questions you will get. I know that one, because practical means like our server is not working properly now. You see, right? Even we are not able to see the jobs as well in the management console. and corresponding team is working on that. So I think it will take some time. So maybe tomorrow session we will discuss about that. Maybe tomorrow whole session will be practical session. Any other questions? You can ask any questions related to BODS. Even if you have any other questions not related to our discussion as well, you can ask me. Okay, if you guys don't have any questions, maybe today we will close the session. Maybe Akash, you are there in the call?
Hi, sir. Yeah, I'm in the call.
Okay, so any update from?
Yes, sir. Just yeah, I got an update from the vendor. So he's saying that they are working on the server. By
Okay,
tomorrow it will.
because I saw like there is some license issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No
So by
worries.
tomorrow the server will be available for the training.
Okay.
Yeah.
So shall we close session for today or?
So are we gonna
As
have an extended training time tomorrow?
yeah, same time only. Today I have some hospital work, so only I just went outside. So I was delayed for a little half an hour. But tomorrow, as usual time, 4 p.m. IST, we will meet again. Maybe tomorrow we will have all the practical sessions only, not theoretical concepts. If we still have, after doing all these practical sessions, after our doubt clearance, if we have still time, then we will go for one of the module, one or two modules tomorrow.
Does anybody have some questions?
Yeah, you can ask me any questions, not
Yeah.
related to today's session. If you
Anyone
can
from
ask today's session, you can ask questions. Yesterday's session also you can ask, or you can ask any BODS related questions as well.
team in Ashland? You want to maximize the time right now?
Yeah, sure.
Everyone is on mute. You can unmute your microphone and ask question.
Yeah.
I encourage everyone.
Shravan, any questions you have?
No, Venkat, no, because see, we have gone through the theoretical, right? That is what my major concern. I got into some of confusion here, like how it would be while doing the practical and what would be the
Yeah.
navigation.
I
Because
understood. Like you are
while
more excited
yeah,
to see the practical sessions.
while you are sharing the PDF files, I try to create a job and I see there are a couple of options available. Refresh object library, switch object library, and
Yes.
the repository export and import. Some other options are available in our systems. So I'm not aware of what exactly we'll do with those. So following a PDF with a minimum, a basic descriptions, I can't say that this topic is completely done from our end. So that is the
Yeah,
reason.
Shravan. Tomorrow maybe we will discuss about those. But till now, whatever we discussed, right? So these all are few basics things. Because
Yes,
see,
that,
if we
yeah,
want to learn about anything, any tool or any technology, we need to know the basics first. So these all are the basics things till now we have
yeah,
covered.
I understood
But
that.
little practical session if we cover, right, then that will be more informative to you guys,
Yes, yes.
because that part is missing today's session because of this tool issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, parallelly, I'm checking in my system that what are the options we have and what we can do. So far, whatever you shown is good, but on the when it comes to creation of a batch jobs, that is where actually I need more
Yes, correct.
information.
Creating of the batch jobs. How do we take up the workflows? How do we make use of data flows? How do we make use of our tables or files as a source or target? And how do we make use of transformations? So
Yeah,
once all of these
parallel
are done,
executions and the
yeah, parallel
SQL
and sequence
investigations.
execution of the data flows and workflows. And once those all are done, how do we see the logs in the management console, trace log, error log, monitor log, all those things, yeah, we can discuss
Yeah,
once this tool is back.
and would like to see how this ETL will be generated as well,
Yes,
because we
correct,
discussed this yesterday.
correct, correct. How
Yeah,
do we export that ATL file, and again how do we import that ATL file?
yeah, and
Correct.
would like to check this option as well, debug option, and get the audit log of that debug job.
Yes, correct.
So couple of things are
Yeah, a couple of things are
uh,
there in our future. So yeah, we will discuss those. Don't worry about that. I will explain each and every options. If I stuck somewhere also, maybe I will learn somewhere and I will give some ideology about that. Don't worry about that.
Thank you for attending the session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below, and we will reply to them at the earliest.